right now on Higher Journeys with Alexis Brooks. How do we begin to dispel this very damaging stigma that money has accumulated over the ages? This isn't a silver bullet. We're talking about people having to not educate, but deprogram themselves from, because I think that the guilt even about having a sum of money or feeling that you're not worthy of it, that's something that can be ingrained and also encoded in the water that is you. How do we flush that out, Billy, and start the process of rebuilding a good and healthy relationship with money?
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I wrote the book, Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, because there's this stigma that if you're a woke or conscious individual, that you should be financially destitute and it's okay to be financially destitute. Well, I'm here to tell you it's not okay to be financially destitute in a matrix that requires an energy exchange, which generates something called money. Because if you're not abundant, if you're talking about all these conscious concepts and you're trying to tell people how powerful we are, how amazing we are, and these affirmations and how the law of attraction works, and they're looking at you and you can't manifest a light bill, you can't manifest a car payment, you every time they turn around, you need money for this and money for that, and you're asking to borrow money, they're not going to believe you and they're not going to want to listen to anything you have to say, because according to when they see you, they don't see a successful person or a person that's utilizing these spiritual concepts that you've been preaching. And so it's important to understand that we all must drop this stigma that money is the root of all evil and all this other kind of stuff, because what it really is, what it boils down to is this. When I went to get my concealed weapons license and I sat there in the class the first day, the instructor said to us, "What's more dangerous, a gun or a car?" And I said, "Well, the gun." She says, "Actually, everybody has a car pretty much. More people have cars than guns, and a car is a weapon. You can run over, you can kill 25 people driving out of here today if you decide to, very, very easily. Just run up on the sidewalk and run them over. It's a conscious decision that you don't do that." And so that really opened my eyes to a whole nother level of understanding. It's like, wow. So money, yes, you can take money and you can hoard it and you can try to worship the money and you can make the money your God and you can, crave after money and chase it. And however, maybe that's the dark side of things. But the true reality is, for this planet to flourish, for the conscious community to develop and grow and prosper, and for us to be finally put into key positions of power on this planet so that we can make major changes, it's going to take cash flow. It's going to take money, which is an energy exchange, and conscious thought behind it that utilizes it for the yin and not the yang.
Mm.
And that's what we have to be able to get to.
I love the analogy that I've used over time in terms of, we think of an object as having a connotation that's good or bad, and I use taking the natural elements as an example. Water, as an example, can cook your food or drown you.
Mm,
Fire can warm you or burn you.
mm,
You can apply that to anything that we have at the tips of our fingers to use. It can be used for whatever we choose.
mhm.
So, but the psychology and the fact that people tend to be habituated towards certain beliefs can do a lot of damage over time. So I do think it's going to be, everything you're saying makes perfect sense. And I'm sure there's always going to be someone that's going to disagree, right? But the journeyers, hopefully, you know what Billy's talking about. And yet,
Yeah.
what is encoded into the cells of belief, or the beliefs that are encoded into the cells, and eradicating that and moving forward with it? You know,
Yeah.
it's
Well, I was going to say one thing that because you were talking about the coding and the programming that's in us. And so one of the things I talk about in my book are the affirmations. And there are a lot of affirmations, because it's been proven that saying positive affirmations for 21 days, 3 times a day for 21 days, will actually reprogram your DNA. This is real science. And so if that's the case, why aren't we then reprogramming ourselves using positive affirmations? So I have a huge list of affirmations for people to say and utilize in their life every single day to begin to break apart that old coding and reprogram the new coding, and embracing who you truly are, embracing the true power that's inside of you, understanding that You are the financial mechanism through your conscious thought and actions, and that the money is nothing more than a side effect of that energy exchange. And you have the capability and the possibility of using it for good or bad. It's up to you. I think that, in my personal opinion, I really do believe that most people will actually do good. Most people want to actually do good. I don't think that most people want to do bad. That's just my opinion. I look at my posts on social media, and if I post something, it may get 50,000 likes and maybe 400 comments. And out of the 400 comments and 50,000 likes, there may be 5 or 6 people that make negative statements in there. When I look at the disparity between the difference between positive and negative, I see that over and over again for years, it's a very small percentage of people that make the biggest noise on the, on the dark side. And so I really do think that the majority of people would like to walk in abundance, would like to leave a legacy for their family.
You brought up something, I don't know if you said the word resentment, but that was the thought in my mind. And unfortunately, there are a lot of people that have gone through, are going through, will go through what you're talking about, and in some cases worse. I've been to Egypt a couple of times, as have you, and I have seen some serious poverty. Folks in the hood here have no idea what poverty is.
They
You want
don't
to know
know.
poverty? Kids playing in the dirt and happy about it. Okay, that's that.
Yeah.
But resentment. Let's talk about resentment and the damage that it does to that very, very malleable structure called water. That is us and money.
Mm-hmm.
My thinking is, because you had this epiphany so early on, you didn't go through subsequent years being salty about the fact that you grew up poor. But so many people do, just resentful. They go through the rest of their lives. Talk about the damage that does.
Oh, it does an amazing amount of damage because the body is primarily made of water. And so every conscious thought and every time you speak, the combination of those cymatic frequencies and light waves, because every thought is a light wave that comes out of your skull. And we know this because we can detect those light waves and send them to a computer so we can see how the brain works. And every cymatic frequency, which is coming out through your vocal cords, which is a vibration that you create in space-time. And those things have power over water. And we've done, not we in particular, but there have been many experiments that have been done showing the power of vocalization and conscious thought over water, and how the water crystallizes or doesn't crystallize based off of positive or negative intentions. So if you're consistently complaining about money, you hear your parents consistently complaining about the bills, and you're poor and you're broken, and you're consistently being pounded with the fact that there's not enough, and you're basically cursing yourself every day and saying, we suck and we're broke and we're poor, and you've actually accepted it. A lot of people have accepted, oh, we're poor, man. We can't afford none of this stuff. And so what's happened is you've actually inadvertently programmed your body and the water in your body to accept that. And then that water, which is being used to make the body function, is actually going into the DNA. It's going into the RNA. It's going into every aspect of the body, the genome. And it's those memories, those thoughts that you put out are now becoming trauma memories that are getting stored in the epigenetic system of the body and then being passed down to the next generation. So people that grow up very poor, if they're poor generationally, they have 15 to 20 generations of broke mentality programmed into their body at the moment of birth. And so this takes a lot of work to break out of. It takes a lot of work to snap out of that spell, because that's what it really is, a spell. And so it's like you have to break generational curses, and it takes a lot. So just like an alcoholic or a drug addict has to admit they have a problem, the same with the person that's living underneath a broke mentality or has programmed their water in their body to say, we have a lack and we never will be anything. They've also got to then reverse and say, look, I have a problem. I'm believing that this is where I should be, but something in me is telling me that I shouldn't. I'm admitting now that I've been part of the process to be where I am, and I need to now find a way. I'm looking for answers. How can I change my current situation? When a person has that epiphany, it becomes even easier for them to reprogram themselves, because they've relinquished, all that trauma, that stress, that programming, and said, look, I'm willing to recode myself. They've opened up now, and now they're open to receiving more new, better, and positive information, and also solutions.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to watch what's next, plus more to explore. And don't forget to subscribe to Higher Journeys.